Will gold push down to the 1800s this week? Let's talk about it in this week's Forex Forecast. All right, starting things off with the US dollar index. And reminder, there is no Cot Report again this week because of some sort of technical difficulty with the CFTC website. So I do apologize. But onto the US dollar analysis here. You can clearly see we have reacted off of this weekly area of demand. And that is why we have seen the US dollar start to rise a little bit. And it's more visible on the lower time frames. If we pop over to a daily chart of the DXY here, you can clearly see that we did have a daily supply zone right here, and we actually ended up removing the supply zone, and now we are left with this daily demand zone at 101.73. So in my opinion, if you kind of zoom out on the daily chart here, the downtrend we've been having in the US dollar recently is more visible on this daily chart here. And you can clearly see that with the removal of this supply zone, we are starting to get a shift in momentum to the upside. That does not mean that, okay, wow, we got to just start buying the dollar. We blew through a supply zone. We need to start buying the US dollar. That is not true. What I would recommend if you are bullish the US dollar, here's what I would do. I would either wait for one of two things. This is the first thing. You could wait for this daily demand to be hit at 101.73 and then look for a confirmation trade to the long side. But that doesn't mean confirmation on the DXY. You could just be doing this in any one of the pairs that you like. So if you are bullish the US dollar, wait for this daily demand to be hit and then look for longs in the dollar on the pair that you like. That is one option. The second option, if we don't end up getting the pullback to that daily area of demand that I was just pointing out to you guys, if we do get this 4-hour supply removed at 103.67, if we break above it like that, we will have a 4-hour uptrend. And at that point, I'll be pretty bullish the US dollar as well. And then we can start to maybe look to day trade long the US dollar pair. So hopefully all of that makes sense on the US dollar. And the reason I'm saying longs could be okay is because of the fact that we are reacting off of that weekly area of demand that I pointed out on the US dollar. And as far as shorts go, what I would like to see for shorts is this daily demand that I pointed out earlier to be removed. And that when that gets removed, we will have the ability to draw the downward trend again. And at that point, it'll be proven to us that the downtrend on the daily chart is going to continue down. Euro US dollar forecast. Last week's forecast, I pointed out how I thought that the euro could easily push down to this weekly area of demand and that you could be looking for short day trades down to that weekly area of demand. And now that we have contacted this weekly area of demand, it is certainly possible that we do push up from this weekly demand. Although, in my opinion, there are higher time frame than the weekly forces at play that could push price lower. It is certainly possible that we do see a weekly reaction off of this zone all the way back up to 1.10 again on the euro, just looking at this weekly chart. So this is kind of the long-term picture, not long-term, this is more medium-term, but I think over the next month we could see the euro do what I'm showing you on my chart. That's very possible. Or it's possible we push down to this weekly demand and rally up from there. So it's definitely one of those times in the euro where it can get confusing. If we want to pop down to a 4-hour chart here, you can clearly see a couple supply zones on my chart. So if you do believe we are going to continue to go down on the euro, if we do pull back to this 4-hour supply zone at 1.089, you could look for a day trade short coming off of that supply zone. And the same thing goes for this supply zone at the extreme at 1.099. So these two zones are definitely good for day trade confirmation shorts in on the euro US dollar. And as far as shorts go, other than that, I'm really not a huge fan because if we pop over to the daily chart here, you can clearly see that we do have this daily demand at 1.06, and we can certainly react off of this daily demand. It doesn't mean that this daily demand will be responsible for pushing price, all the way up to the moon, but we could certainly react to the upside off of this daily demand. So if you are bullish now and you want to short now, you could be shorting on day trading timeframes down to this daily demand at 1.06 and then look to take profit as we contact this daily area of demand on the euro. And as far as longs go, let me just show you. But real quick, if you do want my daily market breakdown forecast every day, check out the Diamond Mentorship. And there's also a weekly Q&A Zoom session and weekly strategy sessions. So check that out. Links in the description down below. And so as far as longs go, on the Euro US dollar, we are reacting off of weekly demand, so there is a reasoning behind longs, even though, like I said, higher time frame forces are at play to the downside. If we do get something like this where I didn't draw that great, but if we do draw this downward trend line like this, if we do remove something like that and we're left with demand down here, you could look to potentially get in long on the euro at that demand. Or if you are very bullish, if we do remove this 4-hour supply and if we're left with 4-hour demand, you could then use this 4-hour demand zone that removes this supply as your area to look for a day trade confirmation in long. So hopefully all of that makes sense on the Euro US dollar. Remember, if you guys ever have any questions or need me to clarify something that I've said, please just comment it down below. All right, on to the gold forecast. Looking at a weekly chart here, and in last week's forecast, I did have a little giveaway where I asked people to comment what would happen. So congratulations to you, Frederick. You won the giveaway. Please get a hold of me on Discord for your access to the Patreon YouTube membership. So looking at the weekly chart here on the gold chart, you can clearly see this weekly demand at about 1811. I do possibly think it's definitely possible we do push down to this weekly demand zone. And if you do want to day trade short down to this weekly demand, I think that would be fine. But in my opinion, if you are short and we do start to push down to this weekly demand, I highly, highly suggest taking profits before we contact this weekly demand, because I do believe we will see a reaction to the upside from that weekly demand zone. As far as trading gold goes now, like I said, if you want to trade short, you can definitely do so on a day trading time frame, however you like to trade. If you like to trade supply and demand or want to use my zones, then if price pushes up to this 4-hour supply at 1910, we will probably see a reaction off the supply zone. I'm pretty confident in that supply. So if we do push up to here, you could either look to just take a trade off that zone with profits down there, or you could look for that extra confirmation just to be safe, because it's definitely possible that we just blow through the supply zone as well. So confirmation could be better as well for short entry. And as far as long goes, I'm not really interested in going long on gold yet. If we do get a 4-hour uptrend like this, that's very clear, I would be somewhat interested in getting in long on gold. Either that, a 4-hour uptrend to begin, or, like I said, at that weekly demand at 1811, at that point, we could be looking for longs on all different types of time frames to the upside. So either wait for a 4-hour uptrend for long, or wait for the weekly demand to be hit to go long, or if you want to short down to weekly demand, it's definitely possible on day trading time frames. All right, on to USDJPY, and really quick, just want to give a shout out to Ann Keat, who took a trade off of my USDJPY 1-hour supply zone, and he explained it in the private Discord group here. So congratulations to you. Very nice trade off this 1-hour supply. Technically, the daily supply was removed, but at the end of the day, very nice trade, beautiful looking 1-hour supply zone. So what he did is he used my daily chart analysis, because he is a YouTube Patreon member, in order to take a trade off of one of my supply zones based on his own analysis. So if you want access to that, check out the YouTube Patreon membership. Links in the description down below. There are 4 membership options now, starting from $5 cap per month, all the way up to a little bit more. So definitely check that out. We'll be happy to see you guys join the team and level up your trading. So as far as the USD yen goes right now, if you remember in last week's forecast, I said this looks very similar to the DXY, where we are reacting off of weekly demand and we are pushing up. So as far as trading it goes now, I am seeing some reasoning to potentially get in long, and there are a few options. We do have new daily demand down here. Although this wasn't a great momentum shift to the upside, if we do push down to this daily demand at 129.14, you could look for a 1-hour confirmation trade to the long side coming off of that daily demand zone. Or for long entries, what we could wait for is for this supply and this high to be taken out, which would give us a 4-hour uptrend. At that point, we could look for day trading longs coming off of the lows. So if we do get a 4-hour uptrend, day trading longs are certainly okay. As far as shorts go, I'm not seeing too much else. There already was that short that I just showed you from one of the members. So the short has already taken place. So there really is no shorting opportunities. But if we do get a 1-hour downtrend, you could technically, if you do get a 1-hour downtrend, you could short down to the daily demand. But then I would definitely look to take profits as we come in contact with that daily area of demand. GBP USD forecast. So looking at a weekly chart here, we have this weekly demand zone at 1.16, and if we go down to the lower time frames, which I will in a second, we've lost momentum. So if we do start to push down in the pound, I would look to take profits around this weekly demand at 1.16, and that would actually potentially switch to a long trade coming off of the weekly demand. So all shorts profits should be taken before this weekly demand zone. Just want to make that clear before we move on. Now, if we go to a daily chart here, if we look at a bigger picture here, we clearly had momentum to the upside, clean trend. Everything was going great on the pound. And then all of a sudden, boom, we had a move down. So as far as trading the pound goes now, if you do believe that we will push down to that weekly supply, there are a few options to potentially look for trades in. So if we push up to this daily supply at 1.22, you could look for a 1 hour confirmation trade short coming off of that daily supply zone. That is one option. The second option is if you look at this daily demand zone that was formed back here, we had not only one, but two reactions off of this daily demand zone at 1.19. If we do end up breaking this daily demand, and if we're left with daily supply, you could do the same thing in this supply zone that I said you could do up here, where we look for a 1 hour confirmation trade coming off of that 1 hour area of supply, or sorry, that daily area of supply. So that's what I'm seeing as far as the daily chart goes. If we pop over to a 4 hour chart, we did also have this 4 hour supply zone, and I'm not sure if it's actually inside of the daily supply zone. Let me see. It's not quite. So I don't really like one of the members in the private Discord was asking me about this 4 hour supply zone, and I said it's probably best to just wait for the daily supply that's just above it to be hit, because a lot of the times I think that that's usually what happens, something like that, when a higher time frame supply is just above it. So that's pretty much all I see here on the GBPUSD. And of course, if we do start to get a 1 hour or a 4 hour downtrend, then set and forget trades short are definitely okay down to that weekly demand that I pointed out earlier. So hopefully all this makes sense on the pound. And as always, if you guys have any questions, just comment down below. Forecast for USDCAD. Right away, I'm looking at my 4 chart layout. I absolutely hate this chart. I said it last week as well. The only thing we can really go off of is there is weekly demand at 1.317. And it is certainly possible we push down to this weekly demand and rally up from here. Now, we do have some problems where we're just not getting there, and it's just very confusing, and the USDCAD is just not looking great. So what I would do if I was trading this one, it would basically be day trading only. And what I would do is I would wait for a trend on the 4 hour chart. So I would come to my 4 hour chart and I would either wait for a very clear uptrend like that, or a very clear downtrend. And at that point, if you're a day trader, you could trade along with that trend. So if you have a 4 hour uptrend, you could look for day trades on a 1 minute, 5 minute, or a 50-minute chart. 4 hour downtrend, same thing, but to the downside. And that's pretty much all I see here on USDCAD. Other than that, there's really not much else. I don't feel comfortable pointing out any zones for you guys to trade because it's just very low odds and this is very confusing. And that's a huge part of becoming a profitable trader, is knowing when not to trade. And just looking at the USDCAD, I can just tell right away it's just all over the map and there's no way to know where this thing is going. All right, onto the Aussie US dollar. This one's looking pretty similar to the GBP USD, so this forecast will be similar to that, where if we look at the weekly chart, we do have weekly demand down here at 0.64, and it's definitely possible that in the next couple months we do push down to this weekly demand where we could see a move up from there. So it's definitely possible we do push down. Now we are seeing evidence on the lower time frames that that is possibly taking place because we have removed momentum to the upside on the daily chart here, where we remove daily demand and we're left with daily supply at 0.70. So if you are bearish the Aussie US dollar, here's what I would do. You could wait for this daily supply to be hit and look for a potential short on a 1 hour chart confirmation coming off of that supply. And I know I've been mentioning confirmation quite a lot in this forecast. So if you don't know what confirmation is, check out my trading tips playlist in the description down below. I also have a confirmation trading video series available in the silver membership as well. So I would wait for this supply to be hit to look for shorts. As far as longs go, I need to see evidence that this daily momentum will continue up. So as to make it simple, I don't feel comfortable getting in long as far as swing trading goes until we can remove this high at 0.71578. And then I'd feel comfortable getting in long. If you want to get in long on day trading timeframes, that's fine. I would just wait for some sort of 4 hour uptrend to start, or a 1 hour uptrend depending on what time frame you want to trade. So yeah, that's pretty much all I see here on the Aussie US dollar. I would just wait for that daily supply to see what's going to happen around there. And if we end up not being able to push up to this supply up here, looking at this 4-hour chart, if we do remove this low, we will have the ability to draw a 4-hour downtrend. And at that point, I wouldn't even be waiting for that daily supply to be hit, because at that point, the trend is down on the 4-hour chart, and we're probably just going to keep going down. So if we do remove this low on the 4-hour chart, we could look for day trade shorts down to that weekly demand. So it's pretty much all relying on the 4-hour chart and the daily chart. If we break this low, we're probably headed down to that weekly demand. And if we push up to the daily supply, we'll probably push down from there down to that weekly area of demand. That is just what I'm seeing on the Aussie US dollar. Kind of confusing times. We just kind of go with what happens on the daily chart. USDCHF, I said it last week, I'll say it again. This chart is just absolutely horrendous in my opinion, but we do have a few things to go off of. I'll keep it pretty simple. There is this daily demand zone that's decent at 0.913. If we do push down to this daily demand and you do believe we will push up on the USD Swiss, you could look for 1-hour longs coming off of this demand up to this daily supply at 0.9398. So any longs, profits should be taken at probably 0.938 at this daily supply. Any shorts, profits should be taken at 0.913. That is just based on what I'm seeing in the daily chart. Other than that, there's really not too much. If you want to refine your entry, there is this 4-hour demand zone right here at 0.91485. You could look for a 15-minute day trade coming off of that 4-hour area demand. Other than that, really not too much to go off of. There's really no clear direction here in the USD Swiss. That is why it is not on my watch list for quite a long time. Whenever there's no clear direction, I like to stay away, but hopefully you guys can potentially get a trade off of these zones that I just pointed out. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil, and full disclosure, I am long on crude oil right now, and I will show you what's going on. But first, top-down analysis here, we are reacting off of 3-month macro demand. So that's why I am long on oil, and I do believe we could at least push up to the near term to $87.25. But even I do see us possibly going all the way up to this weekly supply as well on oil. So if we pop down to the lower time frames, this is what I'm seeing. And this is the trade I actually took. I actually placed my order at this 4-hour demand. Obviously, I don't know. I'm really not even sure how I got filled, because we didn't even really wick into the zone. My entry was above the zone, so I must have just gotten filled. So I literally got the bottom. It was actually crazy. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm a genius. Oh, I'll pick the bottom. It's just pretty lucky that I ended up getting filled and price pushed up. A lot of my profit is taken off. And full disclosure, I also have an order at this 4-hour demand zone as well. It's $75.67. But I will probably end up pulling it if we don't pull back to the demand zone in a matter of a certain time. So that is the trade that I'm in. Just taking that 4-hour confirmation essentially, even though it took for a long time to pull back. And hopefully what we're seeing now around this daily trend line is the removal of this trend line, and the basing we're seeing here is beautiful looking. So hopefully we can continue to push up, leaving us with daily demand down here. And if we push down to this daily demand, I will look for a long coming off of that. So I am extremely bullish on oil. I know it might sound crazy, but hopefully we end up removing this downward trend line and pushing up from here all the way up to that weekly supply that I pointed out earlier. So super bullish on oil. This 4-hour zone is a little bit risky. I'm only really taking it because of the longer, bigger profit I see. And because if I do end up taking it and losing, my total P&L on oil would be basically break even. So I have no problem with risking it on this 4-hour zone. But if you do want to get in long at this 4-hour zone, I would recommend using a 15-minute confirmation trade to the long side. So hopefully all of that makes sense on oil. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there and hope to see you in the next video.